Hi, welcome back, beautiful souls. Today, I have with me here Stuart, my multi-poo puppy. Say hi, Stewie. Look at him. Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm a spoiled boy. Okay. You want to have your nap, baby? Okay, go have your nap. Okay, go. Okay, now that I've put Stuart down, I should have introduced this subject before I picked him up and show you guys. But yes, today we're talking about animal souls. Animal souls and how they are interwoven with our human souls in this process of learning on Earth and living this life. So I have, so just a little introduction. I actually have not really done any official videos here on YouTube talking about working with animal souls and communicating with them. But I have some where I mentioned my work with animals in my IG reels and stories. So if you want to know more, you can also check them out in my Instagram reels. The thing is, I have been doing work communicating with animals for a handful of years now. The reason why it became part of my work is because as I work with my clients, human souls, helping them through the different parts and process of their awakening and ascension, learning their path and journey and what's the meaning of the way they create and craft their destiny in life, what's the meaning of all this. Very often, it's interwoven and co-created with animal souls. So a lot of these people I work with, they have pets. They have their own furry pals and companions to go through this process with them, which is the reason why I would say about 35 to 40% of my work involves animals. So I realize I have not actually done a full video on this. So today I want to do more like a question and answer based, kind of like just talking about some of the common things that I experience in my work, and also like break open some details about animal souls, what it's all about. So for a start, I want to go into the detail of how animal souls get to the point of them being an animal soul. I've been asked this question before. As humans, can we reincarnate into an animal in the next life? Does that mean, which means, are some of the animals here previously humans? Look, I am not God. I am not the one at the source, but through my own claircognizance and channeling and meditative work, my understanding, talking with the guides, is that there is the evolution process has its own upwards process, its own hierarchy, so to speak. And we're not talking about this like in a very bureaucratic way, but it is simply in a very evolutionary way. Let's start with everything on Earth has a soul. Now, I'm not going to say whether plastic goods have a soul. This is something I cannot define, but everything that is made of Earth has a soul. So I think it's not hard to understand. We humans have souls, animals have souls, and bacteria even have souls, insects have souls, plants have souls, and rocks and minerals have souls. Now then, what makes it different is that different category of souls have a different dimension of perception in this three-dimensional space. Us humans, okay, when I say three-dimension, I hope I don't confuse anybody. Earth is three-dimensional. A lot of things we experience here is three-dimensional. So when I say three-dimension, us humans experience it in all forms, including the spiritual aspect of three-dimension. first dimension of the energetic experience is being. The fact that I am here. That is your first dimension in energetic form. Second dimension is survival. So everything in the spectrum of survival, meaning I need to breathe air because you exist. That's number one dimension, right? You have wherewithal that you exist. Now, second dimension is survival. Survival is, at least I exist here. Now I need to have certain things that allow me to exist, which is the survival category. To breathe air, to drink water, to eat food, to have a shelter, right? So you will not be obliterated by the elements. And included in survival is procreation, because to multiply. Okay? So this is actually under second dimension of energetic perception. And thus, this brings me to the point. Animals have two dimensions of energetic perception, right? The perception of being and the perception of survive. You might say, oh, that's not true. But there are some extremely smart animals that goes beyond survival. I will go into details in a while, okay? Hold your horses. If you're watching this, humans have three dimensions, which is the third one. The third one is the ability to forecast with strategy. Thus, ego is an element of energetic format of three dimension. Ego is one of the pillars of the third dimensional energy that humans have. And I'm not saying ego as in a bad thing. Remember, ego is a thing that we all have to have because ego gives us individualism, it gives us uniqueness, it gives us a sense of identity. But because of the existence of ego, we are then, as humans, have that desire, right? Ego bears desire that is beyond survival level. So we have our first two already. The understanding of being, the understanding of survival. Now comes the part of the desire, the understanding of our desires. And because we understand our desires, we are able to forecast into the future steps ahead of what we want to do so as to get something somewhere. So we can plan, we can strategize. Of course, in that process of planning and strategy, other energetic formats are being produced, such as sometimes in order to plan and strategize, one might bear greedy intentions. One might bear the intention of fear, and therefore other spiritual energies are produced in the process. And that's why humans have that extra layer that animals do not. Right, animals only have until survival. Animals cannot think, oh, if I don't hunt now, yes, they're hungry. Let's say they're hungry now. Hungry, lion's hungry, lion wants food, lion go hunt. If today I go hunt and I catch myself an animal, I bring back, I get to eat. My cubs get to eat, my family gets to eat. But this is a very present thought. It's driven by the current hunger. But they will not think, okay, instead of catching one wildebeest, I'm going to catch two because I'm going to store the other one for next week. They don't have that. They will like, next week I want another one. They don't even think about next week. I'll put it this way. They don't have like, oh, what's next week? This week, hungry, catch one wildebeest, it'll feed me, it'll feed us all good. Then one fine day, next week, they wake up hungry again, the process repeats. They are very present because they don't forecast. And therefore, they are not driven by ego, they're not driven by greed, they're not driven by fear, lack, excess. They don't even have lust, because if they procreate, and I'm sure a lot of people would have seen their fair share of animals doing it in public, right? In the wild, in public. But that's because they are simply driven by the now. Now I need to procreate because my body is of age to procreate now. It's a survival basic instinct. Whereas humans do not have sex to procreate nowadays, right? I mean, back then, long time ago, yes, there still probably is a huge amount of instinctual need to have sex to procreate, but we have definitely gone way away from that. And nowadays, a lot of times, sex is driven by many other reasons. It could be the need for intimacy. It could be used as a way to control and gain power. It could be because it's lust, right? And I'm not saying the word lust, like, oh, it's a bad thing, but it's just human nature to feel horny. What I'm saying is that there is no such thing of those third elements for animals. They stop at level 2 dimension of the energetic perception. Humans have until level 3. Okay, now I've gone one circle with that whole level 2, level 3 thing. Now to dumb it all the way down, the rocks and the minerals, they are only at 1 dimension. They are only at, I know I exist. And they can't even voice it out. They can't even interact upon it. They don't have the need to survive. They just are. And a lot of things in this world are just are, if you think about it. They have souls though, but they just are. So I'm not going to go into the one-dimensional souls today. We're talking about the animals. Just want to create this visual for everyone in terms of the soul evolution. That's why we have an evolution. We have an upward process, like I said just now. Nothing bureaucratic, nothing. The hierarchy is simply set because this is a cosmic law. Okay, so animals come into our lives because they are in that upwards motion of their evolution. In the 2-dimensional perspective, an animal soul, what it would look like typically, in the beginning, perhaps they start real small from 1 dimension as a rock. Don't ask me how, don't ask me how many years, okay? Eventually, a rock through time, in its own way, the soul will shift into one of a microorganism, and then something real small with very, very fast turnover of lifespan, which is microorganisms and perhaps insects. Okay, and they are still in their own way developing an understanding of existence on Earth and the need to survive and procreate. Bacteria, insects, you name it. And then perhaps something a little bit more complicated, but still in the wild, no contact with humans, because it's not coming to that point yet. Okay, they still are in their own world, interacting with other creatures of their own kind and predators and prey. Basically, in their own species, in the world of their own species and interspecies, that is still away from humans, like in the jungle, in the ocean, anything of that sort, an animal, a bird, wild. Okay, because they still are going through the process of evolution from life to life, very fast turnover. Let's remember, if they're an animal, they could be born today and eaten the next day, if they're in the wild. And so this goes on and on for many, many, many lives. And they do not have to be the same thing every life, right? Like I said just now. Finally, they will evolve to a point whereby their souls have a good degree of understanding. This is where we talk about soul DNA. Your body has 3-dimensional DNA. If you're an organism of some sort here, a creature of some sort here, obviously you have a 3-dimensional body, you have 3-dimensional DNA in this world, but you also have energetic DNA, which is your soul DNA. Now, your soul DNA retains a lot of memory, in essence, of what it's almost like your energetic form accumulates itself in this world energetically. Your physical form will perish eventually because that thing is not forever. The physical form is very dense and needs a lot of energy to sustain it, which is why anything material and 3-dimension of flesh and bone, of any physical DNA will eventually expire, will eventually perish. Like our body gets old, we die. But the soul DNA persists because the soul doesn't die. It can carry with it accumulatively and in a very compounded way memory of itself through every lifetime. Okay, so I hope this doesn't sound confusing, because a lot of people might say, then why no memory when we get born to a new life? Because the memory of your brain is a 3-dimensional brain. It does not carry soul memory, it carries physical memory. Your physical brain carries physical memory, but your soul carries the energetic DNA and energetic memory. Okay, this will come in handy later on. I'll talk about it. I just want to add in this part now. So the animals, they move through the chain, life after life. Finally, they would have moved through so much in the evolution of their own soul until they come to the point where they are going to enter into transitioning and merging with the understanding of the human dimension, which is the third one, right? The one where humans have, because of our ego and desires, we have in that 3-dimension the need to project further than today, right? Strategize and project further, think into the future. And the reason we are actually able to invent and create lots of marvelous inventions throughout human history is because of this third dimension. Because we can project into the future, because we can create and strategize and calculate these mathematical, scientific specifics to create more technology for ourselves so that we flourish and we ourselves are evolving in the process. And so this thing animals do not have. When they are ready, when the souls of the animals are ready, they will start to get born in their new lives closer in proximity to humans. From a wild animal, they will start to become an animal that has interaction with humans. Probably in the beginning, it might still be some form of wild animals getting slaughtered by humans because through hunting. Subsequently, it could be wild animals that are no longer wild, but they are farmed and still also cared for by humans, but also slaughtered by humans. Okay, it is that kind of life that helps them understand, they come to understand the element of interaction, the experience of interaction with humans. It allows them to get in touch with human energy, to know what a human having a more nuanced, to them is nuanced, right? To us, it's just ourselves being ourselves, right? Me planning for next, like a human. Okay, this might sound uncomfortable for some. Okay, trigger warning. I'm gonna talk about some harsher realities of farming. Okay, let's say a wild bovine would eat as it needs to. There's no one dictating how much they eat. They will just be as wild as it gets because there's just no human interaction, right? But if a bovine, which is a cow that is farmed, already genetically the domestic cow would be quite different from a wild one. On top of that, let's say the human is trying to fatten the cow so that by by harvest time, which is in maybe three or 4 months time, the cow will be fed enough for sale, for slaughter, for meat. So the cow would be given more food and a specific type of food and be encouraged to eat that is not natural to its natural environment if it were in the wild. So when a cow is born into that life of being a farm cow, they would experience the dimension of human desires and projection into the future by being a creature that has to consume and grow at a less than natural state than what it would have been if it's in the wild. Is this interaction, is this co-creation process between the human and the cow? I know some people might say no one's co-creating, the cow is just being made to do what the farmer wants. There is co-creation, trust me, because the cow come into this world to exist. So as a farm cow, so as to receive this treatment, okay, just hear me out, receive this treatment from the farmer, thereby energetically receiving this understanding into its soul. Then 3-4 months down the road, when time is ripe, the cow would be led to the slaughter and its life would end. Perhaps close to the ending of its life, some might say, oh, it's got fear, it's got pain. I'm not going to crack open that subject today because there's a lot of debate behind this. I think that might be good for another video entirely, but I just want to say there is this process going on when an animal comes into contact with humans in a certain lifetime. Okay, so perhaps this whole farm animal scenario can happen to an animal over a few lifetimes actually, as a variety of different animals. It might not even be one whereby they get slaughtered. It could be one whereby they are like a workhorse. They never get slaughtered, they just work until they're very old and they are retired. It could be along those lines, right? And then they don't always have to end up as being slaughtered, like I said. They can just, in fact, I believe a lot of them, towards the upwards evolution of their life one after another, they could come into a much easier and peaceful way of death. Now, that's not going to, I'm not saying that every animal will definitely go through this. Some might. Again, trigger warning, there's going to be lots of, so if you're watching this, first of all, I'm grateful you're curious, but there's going to be a lot of things I'm going to be talking about, so I just want to say, some animals do come here as part of their learning process to be living a life where the human exposure towards them, the human co-creation and experience that they get is one laden with mistreatment. And it is through the mistreatment that actually the animal soul learns a tremendous amount of what the human third dimensional ego-driven dimension is all about, is capable of. I don't have a calculator with me. There's no such thing as a calculator for how much a soul learns in every lifetime, but it is part of their process. And why am I saying that? And why is that necessary? Now I'm coming to this point. Because they will get one day to becoming a domesticated house pet. They will be a house pet, whereby they will be a house pet for many rounds, in fact. They will be a house pet of different types, in fact, not only just a dog. They might come as a form of, I don't know, whatever small creature, then a dog. Dogs are usually one of the last few processes, if I'll be honest. And through my experience too of communicating with the animals, dogs and cats are some of the final few rounds of evolution for an animal before they become humans. So as you can see, why they actually have so much to learn and why you, as a human soul, was somewhere there before. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying all human souls came from a rock. I'm not saying all human souls came from a rock. Some of us are born as a soul in different ways. But there are many animal souls that are on its upward evolution process. And this is how it looks like if you want to visualize it. Why, by the way, so I skip forward a little, why is it that the last few lives they have as an animal is usually either a dog or cat? First of all, because in our current dimension on Earth is that the most amount of meaningful interaction between a human soul and animal soul exists in the form of a house pet. Us humans, our care and nurture and care for well-being of an animal at its height exists in the form of guardian and pet. And usually also because the highest number of household pets right now around the world should, again, statistically, maybe I'm wrong, but it's dog and cat. Okay? So that's why last few rounds of their life is so. So as dog and cat, they learn a lot. They even start to behave a lot like the human owners who keep them and the human guardians who have them. You will notice that your dog or cat behaves a lot like you, eats a lot like you, has habits that are very similar to yours, or basically, even expression. All these tiny little details is because they are absorbing that energy. They are learning that energy day to day of how we behave, how we speak, how we act, what we like, what we don't like. And they take that energy in without us even trying to teach them. Because why? Animal souls, still being pure in that dimension, mostly, right? They learn through energetic imprint. So we can energetically imprint on them without us even trying. Just because we live in the same household. Us being us, and our habits and our preferences and our temper and our temperament, the way we energetically carry ourselves, right? If you're a person who is impatient, easily flustered, or if you're a person who is very zen, very peaceful, very chill, take it easy kind of personality, all these you can see manifest in your animals as well. They take after us. Okay, let me get this in. So very often, the reason why in the last few cycles of their evolution they come into our lives is not just so that they can learn. It's also because we can learn from them. So this is the part where a lot of times I get questions asked due to animals having passed on and the owners are looking for the meaning of why that my dog was here for me, why my cat was here for me. Even I have worked with lots of customers, they are trying to understand why when I had that hamster, there are certain things I felt like the hamster had with me in this deep soul connection that I cannot explain. I get a lot of that, a lot when customers are just asking me, I felt like they want to tell me something. The truth is, a lot of times an animal, when being placed into a certain household, it's not, they don't really draw up a blueprint of their next life. Unlike us humans, I think from a lot of my former videos, you can hear me mentioning that we craft the blueprint of our next life. And we can craft to a certain extent because we can decide with a few different dynamics, the way we're born in, what kind of family, what kind of culture, what kind of social economical situation. We will then receive a few different variety of interactions and challenges in our lives so as to allow our souls to learn in a certain direction, right? So that's when our souls, before we come into every new life, we craft sort of like a blueprint. And the blueprint usually forms itself as the fate of that life. Now the destiny is crafted along the way as your free will and your sovereignty makes choices. That are like a myriad of choices out there that you can make. Thereby destiny is the variable one, fate is the not so variable one. Okay, animals, however, do not really get to participate in that planning of their blueprint. It is planned for them mostly. It's because they do not yet have that, their souls do not have that perception of pre-plan. It really is like they are a sponge, and I won't call them a sponge. It's more like they are a hard drive, and you have throughout the many rounds of their lives as different kind of creatures on Earth, they have downloaded different programs and understanding. Okay, until the point whereby they are supposed to get to the point where they understand a little bit more about humans and whatever human programs there are. Then it's not so much their choice. They have to get there. They have to get there. So them coming into our lives is more like in our lifetime as a human being, what's the part of learning that we need, that we would have then intersections of meaningful soul meetings with certain animals. And because of that requirement in our human life, then these animals find placements in our human lives. They come into our lives. Make sense? It can be anything. It can be like, oh, you are a hunter, and let's say you're let me create a story, a little mini story here, just so that I can help you all visualize. If let's say I'm a boy born in a family where all my forefathers are hunters, but let's say I have more affinity towards animals. I actually don't want to hunt, but instead, this life, I am meant to learn a new dimension of learning, which is a deeper soul degree of understanding my calling as a healer. Instead of an animal killer, I'm more of an animal healer. Okay, so let's say the family construct would have me been training as a hunter as a young boy by my father and grandfather and uncles. Like every male in the family, including females too, are all hunters. And I'm just being brought up to be told I have to carry this line as a hunter. And then as I get older and older, as I'm hunting in the woods, I realize I'm just not loving it. Every time I see an animal hurting, I want to heal it more than I want to kill it. So the animal coming into that, all the different animals that crosses path with this boy, this man, are all placed in that path to help bring that awakening for that person. And eventually he'll get there, or he might not, okay? But optimally in that lifetime, he will get there. By the time he might have felt dearly for, let's say, for an animal in the woods that he's supposed to hunt, but one day he realized that just seeing that poor animal having to feed its own babies and limping on one leg is like, oh my god, I really don't want to hunt. Then he turned himself into, like, he has a spiritual awakening, has this like big questioning of himself and his life and his existence, then realized that he is better off as an animal healer or a vet, like, you know, there. So that's one situation of how animals can find themselves crossing paths with humans to help in the human's learning. There's a lot for the human to learn. And at the same time, if the human is either having killed the animals or either having healed the animals are learning in their own way, their interaction with the human. Now, other scenarios could be farmed animal scenarios. I don't have to tell you a story for this one. You can imagine how they play into that dynamic. And then, of course, your home pets. So again, they may not choose to come into your life, but because your life needs an animal, so they are placed into your life. And that's why, yes, they have a mission, they have a purpose. What you do with them is a mission and purpose for you to help them learn, but they have a really big mission and purpose because almost the entirety of their existence here would be to fulfill and sort of complete that mission or purpose in aid of your growth. See, our life is long, usually a lot longer than most animals. So they come and go, their turnover is much faster. Sometimes it's not even the full lifespan of an animal, right? If a chicken were to live its fullest, the chicken can live for many, many years. I don't know how long a chicken really lives if it's a pet, because I never had one, but definitely longer than a farm chicken. Yeah, so you can only imagine a lot of times they come and go real fast, but they could realize that, hey, if I have come into your life for maybe, okay, this is another very common scenario, a hamster, because I have a lot of clients who are hamster parents, okay? A hamster's life, a domesticated hamster, not your wild ones. A domesticated hamster usually these days is anywhere between 2 to 3 years of lifespan. 3 is really like, congratulations, wow. But 2 is really the standard, 2 to 2.5. So that life is really short, right? I have myself had many hamsters that lived up to the age of 2 and then they are gone. So a lot of hamster owners, they have come to me and said they feel very sad. They would love to reunite or find a way to find back the hamster again in its next life, because they still have all the things, the cage, the accessories, everything. They will not discard it. They love their hamster so dearly that even after the hamster pass on, they really feel like, okay, I want to get a hamster again. But if through some ways, the next hamster that I get, which has to be a newborn, right? If that's what we're talking about, the next hamster that I get is a reincarnated version of my hamster. It's a really beautiful idea. Okay, so they are like, okay, I'm not gonna go adopt an old hamster or a middle-aged hamster. I want to get a newborn baby hamster, and if I do, then can I get one that is the reincarnated version of my former hamster? This is a request. This is a request on our part. There really are a lot of nuances in this area of requests. So not every animal in this situation can come back and reunite. Not every one of them can. But there are cases whereby they can get put back into that person's life if that person still has a lot of learning to do that this animal can contribute in. So the animal's mission and purpose in its next life, if it coincides and is able to serve its purpose with the same human, they can be sorted back into that reincarnated life together with this, I call it reunion. They can reunite with the owner. And now that's it. Up to this point, it already sounds quite beautiful if this can happen. But what I always forewarn and like give a disclaimer to a lot of pet owners is, in the process of looking for your reincarnated animal, do not romanticize the idea that they will come back with the memory, behavior, or even the aesthetics of your former animal. And I don't use the word romanticize lightly. It truly is a very romanticized idea. Because it is like the humans are the ones with the power and the wherewithal of the third dimension, which is projection and foretelling of future, that we go through the lengths of looking for the animal to come back. As wonderful and beautiful as it sounds, it is partly driven by ego, right? The ego of, I can't let go of my animal. I miss him so much. I want him back. I want him or her back in my life. I miss my animal so much. I'm not ready to let go yet. It was all so sudden. The life was so short. I will not be able to love any other dog, cat, bird the way I love you. So yes, I want you back. That's usually what they tell me to tell the animal. But it is in every way very tied to our human ego, because we are now setting the stage and saying, I want you back, please come back. The animals, if again by situation, it makes sense for them to come back to this human, because there's a lot of things this human has to learn in this lifetime, and this animal in another form, in another life, can continue drive that learning. Okay, then they might find their path way back to this owner, and I will do the connections for them through communication. But it is not possible to demand that the animal comes back in the same shape, form, memory, behavior of the previous one. It is a new animal. The soul is the same soul, but it is a new animal. And I think this is the part where a lot of people might find sad to hear or disappointed, but I have to give a reality check at this point to most. I usually tell my clients, I say, I just want you to know, we will try and ask when he or she is going to be born in the next life, how will they show up? Will they still show up as the same animal type as the previous life? So previously a hamster, is it still going to be a hamster? Previously a cat, is it still going to be a cat? Previously a dog, is it still going to be a dog? Right? So these are some of the things that I will go into when I communicate with the animal. I'm not just communicating with the animal, actually I'm communicating with the whole panel of spirit guides, and I'm searching through the Akashic records as well. But there are also other things that I will check, like if coming back as a dog, if previously a dog coming still back as a dog, is it the same type of dog? Is it a bigger dog or small dog, a different breed? Is it the same color type? Is it male or female, not the same gender as the previous round? Would it still be born in the same situation? Like, is it a breeder kennel situation, or would it be like some mama dog on the streets gave birth to a litter of pups and they will all be taken into a shelter? Then we have to go to the shelter and find that puppy. So there's a lot of that going on, which is the work that I do. And why is it necessary? Why do I do this work, you might ask? It's because very often this is tied to the human I'm working with, the person, the client I'm working with. When in search for the animal, it's not just searching for the animal. The help, the search, the reconnection of that link broken from the day the animal died, it's to reweave that link in the next life so that the human, herself, himself, could pick up from where they last left off, in a way, in the learning way. Okay, so that's why I do this work. I find it deeply meaningful. I find that it's deeply healing and enriching. And there's a lot of times I find myself describing the different elements and process and movements of how these souls, how the souls will move through the process. And there are, like I mentioned, there's nuances. Which brings me to the next point. For every animal that's been through with you in your life, they come here with a meaning and purpose. So for them, they find it deeply enriching already, just to be in interaction with you. I know it might not sound or look this way in reality, because you can say, how can a cow or chicken getting slaughtered at a farm be deeply enriching for it? You don't understand. Three-dimensionally, their bodies would freak out, of course. They are getting slaughtered. It's painful. They have adrenaline, they have hormones, they have chemicals coursing through their bodies, telling them this is wrong, this is not good, this is not right, because they feel here just as much as humans feel danger and peril as we get near to it, and we will freak out. Nobody is going to just lie down and willingly die. And animals will not as well. But when their souls get placed into whatever they come here to do, they know that they signed up for it. They know that they have to, not that they really sign up for it, but they sort of don't really have a resistance to it, unlike human souls, because human souls have more resistance to what they take up for the next life due to the extra element, the extra dimension of understanding. Animal souls get placed into it, and they find it deeply meaningful that they get placed into it because it serves their upwards evolution in the entirety of their existence. So when they can complete what they do with you and be compelled back to the source and return home, okay, it's a beautiful way of the crossing over the rainbow bridge is them being compelled back home, and they go towards the light. They really, really do. It answers a lot of questions. I get a lot of questions asked, and I think if you're watching and you're one of my customer, you would know that this answer your question. A lot of them will ask me, oh, my dog, my cat, my hamster, my bird passed away sick, and I had to euthanize. There are lots of things they have to do, right? Sometimes it's sick and already the animal is on palliative care, is in such a bad state, the animal really just wants to go. And then the humans feel very badly about it, of course. We grieve. So a lot of times in this grieving process, again, let's not forget, we have the extra element in our spiritual and energetic dimension and perspective as compared to animals. We are the ones that take on grief. We are the ones that take on guilt. Animals don't have all that stuff. We are the ones with that dimension of consciousness that animals do not. We perceive their loss. Animals don't perceive their death here as a loss. They perceive it as, I am in one place and then I'm in another place. I am in one state of existence and then I'm in another state of existence. I am doing something now and my soul is experiencing something now, or my soul is not experiencing something now and is in bliss. There's just states of being. And so therefore, they don't leave usually with reluctance, they don't leave with hatred, they don't leave with resentment. But of course, after they passed on, they might have the energetic understanding that there's way more to learn, and then they will come back again and again and again, which is why I use the term compel, because it's more of a compelled kind of energy and not so much like they really sit down and write it down in a checklist. I've done this, I've not done that, you know, it's not like that. Okay, so what have I not yet covered? Right, so I think I don't want to waffle on. Today, I feel like I've covered most of the common experiences that I have had when it comes to communicating with animal souls. One more thing, and this is one that I think should be an entire episode on its own, but I'm just going to drop it right now to give everybody a little teaser. Most people think that talking to animals is talking to animals. Now, I teach a course called Soul Speak. It's speaking from soul to soul. Animals speak from soul to soul. Yes, they have a three-dimensional body. They make three-dimensional sounds on Earth as a living, breathing creature, but that's because that serves part of that survival dimension, which is the dimension 2. As a part of that survival, their physical build here makes sounds for interaction. Usually this is for within their own species and interspecies. However, humans have evolved with the extra dimension whereby our evolution puts us into developing technology and language. And we use words, alphabetical words, and we speak languages of different, you know, our culture gives us the form of sounds that we project out for mutual understanding, which is our communication. Animals do not have that with us. But if we decide to bring them into our family and include them as part of a family member, that's why I say it gets real enriching for them the moment they become our pets, because they start to realize that us humans like to talk to them. And not that they don't understand the words we say. Yes, dogs are real smart. dolphins too. A lot of animals, not just dogs and dolphins, a lot of animals in the animal kingdom are capable of learning the vibrations of our sounds, the pitch, so as to recognize who we are, what we mean when we say it, and what do we feel when we say it, a certain tone. Like there is like, if your dog is doing something that you don't approve of, but you don't approve of in a joking way, like, oh no, versus a hard no. And they will take it differently because they are so smart at taking these tiny little intonations as a real meaning. But that's because they step into the world, our world, to learn from us. But truly, deeply, if you want to communicate with your animals, the real way of communication with them is from soul to soul. Vibrations of your intention and feelings to their feelings. This soul to soul communication is very similar to what one might call telepathy. So telepathic communication. We do not have to communicate using words with them. It is more oftentimes less meaningful to them if we use words as compared to if we just sit still and reverberate that feeling and intention towards them in a meditative hold of some sort. So I'm going to go into deeper details in another video because I'm also, like I mentioned, I'm offering a course. I'm going to drop some details in the description box below. If you want to know more about learning how to do animal communication with me, or if you have any questions and you simply want to have me work with you and your animal, present or deceased, come talk to me. I welcome questions. I welcome conversations of this sort. Again, today I'm sharing up to this point because I feel like it's already a lot of information. But because I never talked about animal communication before, today's video is so long. I have so much to unload. So yes, they have very meaningful lives with us. However you see it, however it turns out, even if, oh, that's a big one. It just popped into my head. Even when you eat them. I know, trigger warning for a lot of you who are vegans and vegetarians. I just want to say that even when they become food on our table, there is a lot of deep, deep meaning in their participation in that particular lifetime with humans. Okay, so this is all for today. Thank you so much for tuning into this long video. Thank you, and I welcome conversations. I'll see you at the next one.